Hello there, good afternoon, and very many thanks for always staying tuned to Souq News Television. In case you're wondering, this here is the start of another great package coming to you courtesy of Souq News Television Lagos. It is Development Weekly. Yes, that is the name of the program, Development Weekly, and it's a program that showcases humanitarian and sustainable development activities by international NGOs, foundations, and philanthropists, as well as other local entities here in Nigeria, highlighting their impact on socio-economic development. This is the maiden edition, and it comes your way every Thursday at 1 p.m. My name is David Chiedu. We'll get into the program very shortly when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Development Weekly. As I mentioned earlier, it's a program that highlights activities that involve SDG goals. Of course, the initiative and the project therein participated by local NGOs, CSOs, and the likes. Now, this program will be in segments and we'll have conversations about sustainable development activities. We'll also touch on specific development projects and initiatives and also bring you the news roundup. It does indeed promise to be insightful. Now, the United Nations and its partners in Nigeria are working towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 interconnected goals which address the major development challenges faced by people in Nigeria and around the world. We're talking about 17 of them, namely no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice and strong institutions, as well as partnership for the goals. Now, since the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals in September of 2015, Nigeria has continued to demonstrate its commitment to achieving the goals, the global goals, through leadership and ownership of the implementation process. Now, the United Nations in Nigeria is also strengthening its support through provision of technical support to the Office of the Senior Special Advisor to the President on SDGs, and also line ministries in an effort to ensure that planning and budgeting for development activities in the country are within the framework of the SDGs. Now, the United Nations works closely with the Nigerian government and other partners in ensuring that the SDGs are efficiently and effectively implemented and that resources are allocated to sectors of the economy that will yield the highest dividend for the poor and the vulnerable Nigerians. Now, some organizations that have over the years supported development in Nigeria and contributed efforts towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals at the micro level, particularly in health, education, and economic empowerment, include humanitarian and non-governmental organizations, civil service organizations, as well as other entities. Now, today on the program, we will be headlining these organizations and activities with regards to sustainable development. We are doing an overview of humanitarian and sustainable development activities in Nigeria for starters. And joining us on the program this morning is the Senior Programs Officer, Gender and Development Action, Ms. Iyingi Iramaga. Good morning, or good afternoon rather, Ms. Iramaga. Thank you for joining us. If you can mute your device, kindly unmute your device rather, so we can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Very much for joining us. Gender and Development Action, GADA, is the lead implementing partner in Nigeria of the United Nations Population Fund, European Union initiative committed to gender equality the pursuit of sustainable development and social justice in Nigeria. Now, we're going to talk briefly about the roles of these organizations in the country vis-a-vis the SDG goals as I have outlined so far. So, Mr. Ramada, can you give us a sense of, the role that humanitarian organizations as well as CSOs play as it does concern, sustainable development goals and initiatives in this part of the world?
Well, I'd like to say that civil society organizations, humanitarian organizations, they play very, very vital role, especially in fragile democracies like Nigeria, country with so much issues, 5-6 decades, and we've not been able to solve. So I think the SDGs that came out from the MDGs are very instructive. Put everybody's goal into achieving sustainable development, because certain NGOs and CSOs and humanitarian organizations have been doing several things even before the Millennium Development Goal was set for everybody to push the agenda towards achieving Millennium Development Goals. Now we are development goals or developmental goals to be sustainable. So it means that we should not just be doing things in an ad hoc-ish manner. We should be doing things that will somehow lead to sustainable development, where we don't really keep needing these interventions, but we have a country that is stable. Like you read through the sustainable development goals: end hunger, zero hunger, there should be equality, gender equality, better education, better healthcare, sustainable city, there should be innovation, there should be climate action. So if you put all of this together, you see that we should be heading to a place where we don't keep needing these ad hoc issues of interventions, but we have a sustainable nation or sustainable development where we can just be governing and leading in a process where there is no poverty, there is equality, our cities are sustainable, there is continuous innovation across the board, whether it's in health, whether it's in education, whether it's in environmental sustainability. So the goal is to get everybody thinking on sustainability, thinking on development that is sustainable, and not just doing things in an ad hoc-ish manner that leads to nowhere. So it's a good thing that has been done. It's a good thing that as civil society organizations or humanitarian organizations, we can now put our head in one place and understand where our interventions are leading to. So even if we are not doing that, the global agenda of sustainable development will actually force your hand to do things that lead to sustainable development, whether it's in education, whether it's in environmental protection, whether it's in governance. We talk a lot about inclusion in governance, anti-corruption issues, peace and security issues. All of this will all lead us to having a government or a society that is leading to sustainable development. So I think it's a good thing that we are aligned under the umbrella of the SDGs, but also I'd like to say that, you want a country where the state itself, the state ministries, departments, and agencies, institution of governance is more proactive when it comes to sustainable development. That is my own personal take in the matter. I get a little bit weary when you see lots of interventions being done and it is pushed by either international non-governmental organizations or international governmental organizations or foreign aid. You want a government that is very proactive, and then of course all of these other people can assist. But when you think of, for example, in Nigeria, when you think of let's say child abuse, sexual violence, gender equality, and all of these issues, they just somehow think, oh, this is for the civil society organizations or the international organizations. So we are where our state government is actually conceding some of their roles because we have automatically given it to humanitarian organizations, NGOs, but I would like a government, an administration the federal government, state government, local government to also think towards sustainable development as their priority agenda as we go on as a country.
Now, you are playing in the sector and have been for a very long time. Can you outline some of the challenges that are typical of this sort of responsibility, so to speak?
Yes, like I was talking about sustainability. I'll give disaster management or disaster preparedness as an example. The SDGs would like to see climate action in a very holistic manner where we understand the risks. Everybody understands the risk of the climate change risk in every region, because in Nigeria, we have different risks. So as a state, we should understand the risks. We should be able to plan, proactively, not responsively. Like when the thing happens, we start responding. So for responsibilities, when it comes to disaster preparedness, I'd like to see the Nigerian state at the federal, state, and local levels understand what the risks are, plan ahead. For example, you have a budget for 2025, you are preparing your budget in 2024, you should be able to prepare in a sustainable manner. What are the risks that my local government or my state or the federal government is going to face with regards to disaster preparedness? Are we going to have floods? Are we going to have fires? At what time of the year do we have fires? And plan in that manner, not when there is a flood, we now wait for the international organizations to come in and for assistance. Like last year, I think I heard the Bayelsa state government saying, oh, the Rivers state government hasn't helped us in any way. And I'm like, you are a state. So that sustainability, I think that the state should first take priority, because the reason for government is actually the welfare and security of citizens. So the government should take up that responsibility first and foremost before seeking for international, non-governmental and humanitarian aid. That is my concern in this matter. So I think the states take up your responsibility, and there is no harm in getting extra assistance. I have a problem with most of all this humanitarian aid and things around securing lives and property, especially when it comes to deal with gender-based violence, that it's almost as if the civil society organizations or NGOs and humanitarian organizations are taking the first step before the state comes in.
Now, you've mentioned a few things, including, aid workers and disaster management and all of that. I'm curious as to, the safety of some of these individuals, because in some instances, they put their lives on the line somewhat. They're thrown more or less in harm's way. So what sort of measures are there on a normal basis or on a typical basis to mitigate some of these things, or if you like, to serve as a prophylactic measure to prevent some of these things from harming these aid workers who, for all intents and purposes, do good for, humanity?
Well, I would like to first of all say that there is no intervention that humanitarian workers, NGOs, organizations do, that the state, when I mean the state, the Nigerian state doesn't have a ministry or a department or an agency responsible for that aspect of work. I mentioned disaster management, whether it's disaster management, whether it's humanitarian issues, whether it's environmental issues, there is a ministry or a department or an agency responsible. So I think that humanitarian actors, civil society actors, agencies who are responsible, or the government, maybe it's at the state level, at the local level, or at the federal level, you must be aligned with the agencies of government working in that area so they can support your intervention. They can give you, maybe permission to go in or the necessary security, or you understand that they have something that they ought to do, within the context of their roles as the government agency. So yours is to support. And I think that with that collaboration at that level, at that interagency level, collaborating with the necessary ministry, department, and agency, it gives you the safety you need. It gives that collaborative effort. You're not there to replace the government. You're there because maybe there are some blind spots that they are not seeing, or maybe there are budget shortfalls that you're trying to cover, or there are areas where they cannot penetrate. So your presence there should be collaborative, because sometimes the environment can be hostile. It can be hostile in the sense that sometimes the state itself might not be happy with some humanitarian intervention. So the idea of ensuring that you're doing no harm, you're going there in a conflict sensitive manner. And for you to be conflict sensitive, you must ensure that you mark your stakeholders. Who are the people responsible? Who is the authority there, whether it's at the local level, whether it's a religious level, whether it's a government level or the security level. You must be able to work with the relevant stakeholders that can assure your safety and that can help your intervention and that will not mar the process, and also keep you safe, and you can get the most out of the humanitarian intervention that you're bringing. So I think collaboration is very important. Understanding the area or the terrain that you're going to, mapping out your stakeholders and working with the right stakeholders, understanding the culture, the language of the people that you are going to meet and you're going to give this assistance to. Understanding the cultural context is very important. All of this will help your work and, of course, ensure peace and ensure that you do not cause more harm than good. You know, if you're going to go to a community and you are ill prepared, you can actually cause more harm, not just to yourself, but to the people you're trying to help. So understanding the terrain, entering these communities the right way, seeking partnership and partnerships and leveraging partnerships with other local organizations and states, very, very important. So you're safe, the community is safe, nobody is hurt, you're not going to cause any harm in your entry and your exit.
All right, we will, from this point, I mean, I could have asked you more, but we're trying to redeem the time, as it were. So from here on, we're going to move on to the second segment of the program Development Weekly. We'll spotlight a particular initiative, as I mentioned earlier. We'll first have a conversation with regard to the overview of these entities in the country and what they do. And then, of course, we'll move over to the second part of the program, which is talking about specific projects being undergone by the government in partnership with some of these organizations. Next up, we take a look at what the European Union, in partnership with the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, in Nigeria, are doing with regards to developmental initiatives and or programs very shortly. Welcome back. It's still Development Weekly, and we're now going over to the Spotlight segment, where we're taking a look critically at some of the giant strides being taken by the government of the day in partnership with some of the developmental entities that there are, both local and international. Now, the European Union, through its support to Democratic Governance in Nigeria Programs Phase 2, has welcomed a number of young Nigerians into the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center PLAC Legislative Internship Program. Now, this particular initiative offers a rare opportunity for young graduates to gain hands-on experience with legislative practices and processes at Nigeria's National Assembly. Spanning 10 weeks, the program was designed to provide interns with practical exposure to legislative work, fostering engagement and networking opportunities with members and staff of the 10th National Assembly. This particular program, beyond career development, also aims to create networking opportunities and promote skills that are essential for legislative engagement. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. We're still being joined by our guest this morning, a humanitarian expert. She is the Senior Programs Officer, Gender and Development Action GADA Nigeria. Now let's get your thoughts about this particular partnership between the government and PLAC as well as EU. It is on paper a commendable one per se, but just how impactful do you see this being for young people in Nigeria?
I'm back on, right?
We can hear.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I think it's very, very impactful. PLAC, the EU has supported PLAC governance issues around women's participation, issues around election integrity, issues around governance, basically, and the electoral process for quite a long time. And this intervention of getting, mentoring young people, especially the young graduates within the legislative arm of government, I think is very important because, many young people, even Nigerians across board, many people don't understand the legislative process. They don't understand how laws are made. They don't understand the nitty-gritty with regards to the budgeting process, how, these budgets are managed at the legislative arm of government. We know that the executives, they develop the budgets. And I think there was a point where people were really upset about legislators inserting things in the budget. So there's so much confusion around this part of governance that I think that mentoring young people in this space is very important. But what I think is missing is, I wish the people that are being mentored, the EU and the PLAC program, I wish these people can actually go on to winning legislative seats in the future. I'm not saying that they cannot win. I'm just saying that the pathway from that mentorship to actually be legislators is a little bit far from my understanding of Nigeria's politics. The politics, we keep hearing politics is local. So this legislative mentorship that PLAC and the PLAC is doing and the EU is supporting might give us some very good policy analysts, might give us very good legislative advocates, but will it give us legislators? I wish there would be some sort of mentorship that can mentor these people within the political lines, that can lead them from being mentored in the National Assembly to being National Assembly members. But all in all, I think it's a very good one. It's good to get people educated on legislative processes and have people that might end up being advocates or policy formulators or people that can formulate laws, more people that can stay within that sector and try to get the best out of our National Assembly. So I think it's a good thing. And I'm just saying, my addition is, I wish that this mentorship can get more young people, in the line, or more young people through the door to become legislators, not just legislative experts, but actually legislative practitioners. But all in all, I think it's a good thing. Most of the people that are going to be mentored, I'm very sure many of them are going to probably do their masters in policies or policy analysis or some developmental work that might lead them out of the country. But I think that we should start selecting grassroots politicians, grassroots young politicians, to be mentored in this process, because they are the people most likely to become legislators in the future.
Now I hear you, and I'm going to stick with this particular, train of thought with the young people. Nigeria has a predominantly young population, over 70%. That's well over 2/3 of the population are under the age of 30. Now, for some reason, it's been challenging, for all intents and purposes, to get these young people to be interested, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, in politics, governance, as you were. Before we start to micro scale it down to specific, aspects of governance, as you were. So, in your view, how do you think we can, get them to be a little more enthusiastic, for want of a better term, in matters of nation building, matters of governance, matters of politics, core politics, as you were, just as you've, hinted on a little bit with legislative matters?
Well, I think that 2024 has given us the opportunity, the open opportunity, to educate more young people when it comes to, with regards to politics and governance. Because first of all, the elections were very, very, will I say, it was a galvanizing factor. Lots of young people were mobilized to participate in the elections, although many young first-time voters might not have really understood the nitty-gritty of our politics and elections, but they were participating, but they were enthused confused about the elections, and the outcome of the elections happened, and we can see that life for Nigerians have changed. So people are beginning to understand that elections have consequences, or elections have certain outcomes, whether it's favorable or it's not favorable. People are beginning to understand the difference between a decade ago and now. So they can see that governance is not something that you should just leave for the politicians. Like people say, oh, politics should not be left for the politicians. It's everybody's business. By the time a government comes into power, your life improves or your life doesn't improve, or the economy improves or it doesn't improve. You start doing the cost benefit analysis of understanding what politics is or governance is. So I think that people are very interested at this point in time. So what probably we need is a forum or forums that can explain these things further, that can make young people understand their roles, whether it's in the elections or holding government accountable, or maybe communicating with their state house of assemblies, or their national assemblies, or the ministry, departments, and agencies responsible for implementing policies and laws. So how they can communicate to change the outcomes, to improve economic outcomes, to improve security, to improve just the total well-being, whether it's health outcomes, education outcomes. So now is the time, because people are really, really seething. The economy is bad. So there's an opportunity to let them understand, while we are here as citizens, this is what we can do. The next election is going to be in 2027. So how can your experience from 2023 to 2027 inform your political choices in 2027? But between that time and now, what can we do to intervene? Can we speak to people? Can we advocate? Can we write letters? Can we do press conferences? And these are different things that actually help or contribute to governance. People say, oh, we have the right to protest. But when you're protesting, what is your protest based on? Are you just going to come out to protest because somebody says, let's protest? What is the goal? What do you want to achieve? Everything should be strategic in a manner that the government can hear you and the government can act. It should not be a scattered thing. Oh, we want to just come out and we are upset. No, what are you upset about? So now is the time. There's an opportunity to get more young people actively involved, more young people taking, actions and steps towards improving governance. So I think that we have an opportunity at this point in time, not just leaving young people to be disenchanted. The economy is hard. Some people might just fall back and try to survive, but this is an opportunity to engage with the government at the state, at the local, at the federal level, to see how we can leverage opportunities to change things for the better. I think young people will get it at this point in time.
Speaking about engagement, speaking about opportunities and, forum to do that, a couple of days ago, in Mr. President's Independence Day address, or as part of his Independence Day address, he mentioned a 30-day youth conference, aimed at addressing some of the issues, bedeviling the, young population of the country, as well as provoking, or if you like, evoking conversations and dialogue that would, facilitate nation building amongst the subset of these young people, or within the subset, rather, of these young people. Now, it's been a mixed bag so far. Some people are enthusiastic about it. Some people are optimistic about it. Some others, not so much. They think, you know what, this is not what we need at this point in time. What are your thoughts?
I think dialogues are important. First of all, I think they're important, but I'm also a very cost-effective person. I don't like waste. I don't like government or waste in governance. So thinking about that, we can have productive dialogues without spending millions and billions of naira converging people together at a point. Do you understand what I mean? But what is the conversation based on that we don't already know is affecting young people today? We need to be able to create an environment, enabling environment for young people to thrive. We need our police to be more, safety conscious or more democratic in their policing. I'm saying this in a way that they understand that they are to protect and not to just police young people. We need the economy to work. We need energy efficiency, where young people just make power available, make it affordable, there are lots of young people who are entrepreneurs who will thrive. And then we need the political space to be a lot more open for young people to participate in. These people that want to dialogue with young people, how have they made it easier within their political parties for young people, men and women, to participate and not just be mouthpieces for the party or causing problems on social media for their political parties, but participate in and implement some of these bright ideas that young people have. So my point is, before we get to the point where we're going to be spending billions on a 30-day dialogue, put people in hotels, feed them and give them stipends, how have you addressed the issues affecting young people out there? We saw what happened during the NSAS protest. It was an issue that was affecting young people. Young people were being harassed, killed, and maimed by the police. That was one big problem. We wanted police reforms and all of that. How has the Nigerian state reacted? How has that protest reflected in the reforms of the Nigerian police? We want certain reforms that will help. If the government can address some of these things, we might not need a 30-day dialogue. We might need just a dialogue to say, okay, this is what you have done. This is how you can improve on it. But the dialogue, believe me, people will go to the dialogue. People will lobby to be there. People will fight to be there. Money will be shared. And you have some more people speaking in favor of the government over others because they have enjoyed a 30-day enjoyment with monies in their pockets. And you're going to douse the energy of the Nigerian youth that you can actually explore or exploit to make Nigeria better. Youths are talking every day. Young people are talking of how the country can be better everywhere on different forums. Youth-led non-governmental organizations are talking. So why don't you listen to those people first? Get their recommendations, implement it, and see if you have addressed at least 30% of the concerns of young people before you spend money on a convention that might not lead anywhere, a convention that political parties right now are lobbying their members to attend. So that is my problem. What is going to be the quality of the conversation we are going to have? The recommendations, who is going to implement the recommendations? So I'm just worried that this is an intervention that they just want to use to dampen the enthusiasm of young people and say, oh, but we have talked about it. Let's act, and then talk, and then act again and then talk. I'm afraid of the talk. We had a national convention under Goodluck Jonathan administration, and honestly, we don't know what was done with that, and lots of money was spent, and it's just still a conversation till today.
Well, you're part of the few who don't seem particularly enthused by it. But hey, listen, it's out there already, and it's something that very many are particularly hopeful would have an important impact, or if you like, a very, 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 very critical change, would effect a critical change as far as the well-being of the young people that make up the most population of the country is concerned, and of course would also facilitate more developmental project, more developmental initiative that would in turn, help the country grow, especially when it comes to areas of fulfilling or achieving the SDG goals. Iyengi, thank you very much for joining us on the program this afternoon. Ms. Iyengiri Maga is the Senior Programs Officer, Gender and Development Action, GADA, Lead Implementing Partner in Nigeria of the United Nations Population Fund, European Union Initiative, committed to gender equity, the pursuit of sustainable development and social justice in Nigeria. Many thanks again for joining us on the program today. And that's our time on Development Weekly. Of course, as I mentioned much earlier, this is the maiden edition. Of course, it does indeed promise to develop, as the name implies, it does promise to develop as the weeks go by and as more episodes come your way. So do keep a date with us next Thursday at the same time, 1 p.m. Many thanks again for joining us. I am David Chi. Do stay tuned to Souq News Television. Good afternoon.